Illustrious gang.
Yikes. 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the flow playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, inspire, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Welcome into the latest 5 on the Floor live edition mega draft trade. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. I'm excited to come to you with today's floor plan. I am Greg Sylvander. We have a whole cast of characters, a big crew with us, including Alex Toledo. You know him at Tropical Blanket. Brady Hawk, follow him at Brady Hawk 305. We have Sean Rochester at S Rochester NBA and Bryan Fonseca at Bryan Fonseca NY. We also will have a special guest sneak through here as well, a draft specialist, but it's not where you think we're going, but that'll be a little bit later. We're going to dive into some of these comments because I'm going to be honest. Before, when we were just pre-show, I'm reading the comments. Y'all folks need to relax. I don't know what the hell y'all are reading. There's nothing changed. People are just publishing words that were already spoken. So stop getting so upset about running it back and what they're not going to do and things like that. You guys are being absolutely ridiculous. Grow up and calm down. But before we get into that, because the comments are a disaster, and y'all know what happens when a disaster strikes in your home or business, it's Water Cleanup of Florida. With over 60 years of combined experience, Michael, Robert, his entire team are ready to reach out to you for any of your disaster cleanup needs. They can also help you with any leak detection issues. With over 60 years of combined experience, they're licensed building contractors providing the A to Z service, one-stop shopping the busy homeowners and business owners require. There's no need to bring in any other contractors. They'll handle everything for you. Service areas include Palm Beach, Broward, Dade. They'll come and help you wherever you need help. Call Michael anytime on his personal cell phone, 954-579-0356. Again, that's Michael at 954-579-0356. Water Cleanup of Florida. You're seeing the website there right now, wcufl.com. If you got the schmutz, they got the guts. And boy, Heat fans don't appear to have the guts, y'all. What is going on today? We have not even reached the free agent moratorium, and y'all are freaking out about moves that have not been made. The draft hasn't even happened. Could we calm down? Grow up and calm down. Anyway, first, before we get into the draft, I think where we should start is any news of the day. So anybody, we're going to be a little bit looser on the show. For the podcast feed, we're going to do our best to keep this coherent, but we are going to be a little bit looser than usual. Anybody on the panel here, because we have a robust panel. The news of the day, there was some Dame stuff that came out about him and Scoot being in contact. I'd like somebody's opinion on that. I also am interested about this Riley thing. If anybody wants to get into expanding upon how ridiculous it is that people are overreacting to this aggregation that's taking place. What else took place, y'all? Is Charlotte taking Jordan Miller? Is Jordan Miller even his name? No. Brandon Miller. Bryan Fonseca's laughing, so I'm going to him first. React to the news of the day. I'm going to start with Dame because that's where every Heat fan's mind is. What do you think of the news of him buddying up with Scoot Henderson and them starting to make it sound like as if that can be a pairing that will work? I think it's a lot of this is the day before the draft and it is the most posturing that could ever take place. That's my vantage point. Bryan, what is yours?
Literally nothing's changed. Because Mark Spears reported that, that's happening, but then somebody else reported that it's in fact not happening and that Scoot and Dame don't have that much of a relationship. Chris Haynes said on his podcast that he does with Mark Stein that he just sort of sees, because they're saying like, oh, Damian Lillard's spending time with all the rookies that they're bringing in for workouts. And Chris Haynes is like, my read on that is he's just getting in his workout and just kind of keeping it moving. So it literally, Welsh, you and I are on the same page. It's June 21st. And I know people don't want to hear this shit, but it's literally the first day of summer. The draft is tomorrow. Free agency doesn't start for another week, a little bit more than a week, actually. And I will remind people that a lot of times, in terms of big trades in the offseason, a lot of times they don't happen until later in the offseason. Kyrie Irving, I think, was August 30th one year or August 14th or something late along those lines. There have been trades that have happened like very late in the offseason. Other trades have happened a lot sooner or whatever. Ultimately, it's there's nothing really to freak out about. Yes, the Celtics got Kristaps Porzingis. Everyone was, banging the table about the Celtics last year. Oh, they got Malcolm Brogdon. Oh my God, him, Derek White, and then Danilo Gallinari, and then he got hurt, and then the Celtics ended up losing to y'all in Game 7 on their own home floor. So for a fan base that has seen 7 NBA Finals appearances in 18 years, just tranquilo, it's gonna be okay. You got a lot of time. Damian Lillard's out there. We'll see if they get in on Paul George. I'm sure they're gonna make a call. And I don't think there's anything worth freaking out about, considering that this hasn't really gotten into motion yet. And even last year, when people were freaking out that they didn't do anything, and we were getting on them for not doing much about their roster, they somehow made it to the NBA Finals. So it's like, what do you want me to do?
We have a funny comment here from Frankie G, who says Brady and Greg have a first-round grade. Other guys maybe a summer league invite, as this is a draft focus show, and we promise we're going to get there. But we're going through.
I was a pretty good point guard back in the day. I don't know about that.
And I just have to call that out because I agree with Frankie G very much. But as we continue, Alex, you had some stuff on our off the floor feed that I want to extend to our viewers here and talk about the Porzingis move specifically. So that's news of the day. What does that scare you? I'm a little bit like, why the hell is Boston trying to go get bigs? Like, did I miss something there? So like, maybe you could enlighten me why they need. I mean, I guess Porzingis is an upgrade straight up talent wise. It's a good risk move, risk reward. But what's your take on that 3-team deal? Does it give you any indication also with the Indiana Denver move that took place with the trade down? Just your thoughts on some of those moves of the day, Alex Toledo.
Well, first of all, are you hearing me okay? Because I was having some mic issues before.
You could be louder.
Yeah, it's not picking it up right now. That's a problem that I've been trying to resolve. So
now it's getting better
in the chat.
You're good.
But to me, the Porzingis thing, like you said, it's mostly just an upgrade. It's another guy they can add into rotation. They're basically going to replace Brogdon and Grant Williams with him. Brogdon was kind of a non-factor in the playoffs. I don't know if it was mostly just because of the injury, but Porzingis had a really nice year. They're just going to have to hope that, he's healthy for the playoffs. I think it's going to, it's better. It's good for them. Like, it doesn't make me scared of the Celtics. It just makes them even more of a problem to deal with. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. He becomes immediately probably their third best player when he's healthy. I think they just have a lot of good players in their rotation, kind of replace their back end rotation guys or back end playoff rotation guys with somebody who, is kind of deserving of that $36 million that he just opted into. He's more or less that level of player with kind of what he showed for the Wizards last season as a rim protector, as a shot maker. It's just going to be annoying for the Heat to deal with, man. Like, we already know how they can. Like, they just have so much size already, and now it's it's not like they replace size with size. No, they really just added another big body who's going to give you problems. He's not going to make them unbeatable or anything like that, but it just makes them a tougher. It's going to be tougher to deal with them, and now maybe more pressure on the Heat to retain the Kevin Love, and again to add another front court piece. Maybe the pressure is it goes up a little bit there too.
That's an interesting part of it I didn't think about as we continue to react. I just would hesitate for anybody to get ahead of themselves. This is an early trade before the draft. There's still a lot of time to go, but I do think it's an interesting move from Boston's perspective. And there was something else that came out today, news-wise, that I want to get Brady's take on, and then we're going to jump into a couple super chats. And that was that there was talk of the potential for a team like Houston to trade up, which this is like counterintuitive for Miami, to trade up into Miami's spot from 20 to 18, and potentially some sort of veteran, I would imagine, would go back to Miami that could help. Although Houston doesn't have a ton of veterans. Is there a young player on Houston's roster that came to mind when you saw that report, Brady Hawk, that you think could work in Miami if Houston tried to trade up to 18 from 20?
Yeah, that's Brian hit on that one. That's, I think, a main one that would make sense. Like the KJ Martins of the world. I feel like he always gets brought up because he has that Miami Heat type build. But like Houston sitting at 20, like I just don't see the reason to give up a player like that and move up 2 slots in a situation where you're probably going to get the same guy at 20. Like there's, especially with this draft, it's like you ever look at these mock drafts, it's like there's every guy in that range could go from like anywhere in the upper 20s to the high teens to second round. Like it's all just out of whack. I don't really see that like a reason for that. But hey, if Miami, I think, would definitely be willing to move back 2 slots and probably get a guy that they like anyway to do that. So yeah, like a guy like KJ Martin, I know you could probably hit on the stuff in terms of like the money stuff and all that type of thing. But it's right now, I guess it's just about getting kind of solid role players, because I know the whole talk is about running it back and all this stuff. And you're seeing all these like incremental moves and trying to like push the needle. These are ways, I guess, to push the needle around the rest of the roster. And then I guess in terms of the other stuff, in terms of the Dame stuff and all of that, it's terms of freaking out about like running it back, all that stuff. I don't feel like anybody can freak out one way or the other until about like 8:20 tomorrow night when the 3rd pick is being announced. Like after that, everybody's like fully willing, should be able to either way could start going crazy. But until then, it's like no domino is going to fall until that very moment, it feels like. So that's kind of my main takeaway. And then in terms of the other news of the day with the Porzingis thing, like, yeah, that's a really good move for Boston, in my opinion. I think that opens things up. That makes them so hard to guard. When you're talking about, let's go with the running it back method again, and then say you're playing this team in a playoff series, that's a whole lot different of a game plan to scheme against. Even if you have this same team, it's like you have to do so many different things. The only positive I could give you is that they're going to be playing basically drop the entire game, and they're not going to be switching as much. So if you're hitting on your shots in terms of like the Tyler Heroes of the world, or let's go crazy, say the Dame Lillards of the world, or anybody down the roster that could be a drop killer, can kind of make a team like Boston pay in that situation. So that those parts of it will be interesting. That's
a really great point. I saw that we had flashed upon the screen here that KJ Martin makes a shade under $2 million. So that's an easy salary swap. So I do think
also, Greg, you could do 18 in Oladipo's contract for KJ Martin and Jayshawn Tate. Contractually, the money works out. Jayshawn Tate makes about 6 something or 7 million next year and has a team option for the year after. And I don't think Houston's going to keep either one of them long term.
That's another interesting wrinkle if Oladipo were to opt in and give them the ability to execute something like that. There's a couple of super chats we want to get to, and then we'll keep this rolling along and kind of pivot to the draft as we try to use our basketball terms. Zachary Davis comes in with the donation, $19.99. Thank you. Could you provide a realistic roster upgrade just in case we swing for the fences again and miss out? What are our options? Let me take that one. The options would probably be to dangle Kyle Lowry's expiring contract with some asset of some kind and try to get an upgrade. I would think preferably in the front court. And then you would really need to retain Gabe Vincent. I think that, and then whoever you drafted 18, I would think would have to be somebody that you would hope could backfill your roster. Maybe not be in the rotation, but backfill. And that, what I mean by that is play a few games throughout the regular season to eat some innings as we go. You're going to need Jovic to step up. There'll be internal improvement. I know y'all don't want to hear that. They don't have exception money. They don't have cap space, that kind of stuff. Don't look at the free agent list, Heat fans. If I see another person tweet, the Heat should sign Brook Lopez, I am going to vomit. Okay. Stop it. It's just fundamentally impossible. So
same thing with Kyrie.
We also have to understand some of the rules before we just go spouting out who we want. It doesn't work that way. We're not collecting trading cards. Let's get another super chat going. Lucky Luciano says Greg will still defend Pat even if we run it back. You're damn right, because he has given me no reason not to run it, not to defend him, because ultimately every single time y'all say that dude is dead, the team ends up proving y'all wrong. And you can say it's Spo and Jimmy and Bam's greatness. Well, then why the hell has it been happening since 1995? Was it Spo and Jimmy and Bam in 97 and in 06? Was it Spo then? Was it Jimmy and Bam then? So I just think ultimately I'm going to trust the people that have been doing this and have set a precedent that they can execute it over and over and build this thing over and over again. And I'm not going to listen to naysayers who absolutely have no clue what it's like to do anything when it comes to building NBA rosters. Thank you for the $2 donation. So
There's
as we continue,
more comments coming in about Brook Lopez. They literally cannot go after him. Like, I don't know if you guys are actually listening, but like they can't go after him, Kyrie, Kuzma, any free agent out of the picture. It's not going to happen.
I'll also say, like, for the just so this can stop. Nobody over here is advocating that this team should run it back fully.
No,
but
you're right.
Riley was also just saying, like, listen, the reason he said be patient is because the possibility is there.
Yeah.
If they don't end up doing much. But I think
he's gonna walk in and say we're blowing it all up. Everything is just blown up. The roster's not gonna be here next year.
He said they're not taking a wrecking ball to it. And then just because Barry Jackson says that they're, and I don't know what his exact tweet was, because I can't believe that we're aggregating people tweeting conversations back and forth between each other. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. Ashamed. Walk with your head down in shame, I say.
But I personally, I think they're going to do something. I don't know if it's going to be the splashiest splash that everybody wants, but I do think they're going to try to do that. That's what they're in the game for. Damian Lillard's out there. Paul George is out there. If they get one or the other, I think people will be satisfied for that. I also think that, look, a lot of people wanted Bradley Beal. That's been discussed already. If they got Bradley Beal by now, and then somebody else went and got Damian Lillard, say the Knicks or the Bucks or the Nets or whatever, people will be pissed because they're just going to be pissed about that. If they got Bradley Beal already, blew their wad on that, and let's say Tyler Hero was in that deal, like they actually caved and did that or whatever, then Damian Lillard goes somewhere else, Paul George goes somewhere else, people are going to be pissed. Like, you're fine. You're in the same position you were in before. You still have all the assets that you want in terms of draft capital or whatever. Let's see what happens.
Totally agree. I think people just should, let's see what happens. They have to make moves. They're not going to run with the same payroll. If it's just straight trimming payroll and that's all they do, listen, I'll be the first to have an honest conversation about why the hell would you do that to a team that has these good of Jimmy and Bam leading them and Spo coaching them. I totally get it, but we're not there yet. So let's everybody just take a deep breath. Wim Hof method, meditate, whatever you like to do, work out, hit the punching bag. Before we shift to the draft, we want your best realistic trade ideas. We'll discuss them. We'll take them via super chat. That'll get them to the front of the line. But we want kind of all of your trade ideas. We'll go through a few of them. I'm going to talk a lot less. And then we're going to shift to draft for the rest of the show and really dive deep into all of the guys at the 18th pick that the Heat may trade to somebody else. I'm totally joking. I actually think they keep this one. We got any trade ideas?
Sean was taking some before. You think they're going to keep the 18th pick, Greg?
What's up?
You think you're going to keep that? You think they're going to keep the 18th pick at this point?
Well, no. I mean, ultimately, I think at some point, I still believe Damian Lillard is going to say that this is it for me, and I'm holding out hope for that. But I think if that doesn't happen, and because that's such a, like, let's just be honest, like, these big swings are big swings for a reason. I think if it doesn't happen, then it's pretty likely they keep the player. They need low salary talent going forward. This is going to be they need cost controlled guys.
Great draft to trade down in.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think I have a feeling I know who came up with this trade. I won't mention any names, but this trade on the screen that Sean put up there, that was one of the ones that we got back. Vic and Depot. Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are they
Splitting
trading
him
twice?
up into two
That
people?
might be too much.
That's crazy.
That might
Did they
be.
get
That might be.
Wembanyama all of a sudden.
That might be a producer's typo. I think it was Kyle Depot,
Okay.
number 18.
So Kyle, that will make financial sense. Kyle Lowry, Victor Oladipo, and number 18 for Turner, Buddy Hield.
Indiana wouldn't do it.
I think,
Indiana's
yeah.
not looking for expiring contracts. Indiana wants to compete.
But
Yeah.
Buddy Hield absolutely fits on the Heat team.
Oh, I love it. I love it for the Heat.
Yeah,
It's
I
just,
would
I hate to play devil's advocate. And please,
honestly,
don't let me keep talking if I should shut up. But
yeah,
that's,
like if they're not going to get a star and you end up getting like a couple different players and Buddy Hield is one of them, Buddy Hield makes a lot of sense with Jimmy and Bam. You still need more around that, but just functionally.
That last one was actually not from who you may have thought it was because I put Depot in there twice. But I know who you're talking about. That was from Jack Cummings on Twitter. This one is from BGS Sports on Twitter. I don't have any typos this time. Kyle, 18, future seconds for Sexton, KO, and 28.
Does Utah say yes to that?
Are they even going to be able to make a deal with them in general? Like, isn't that always tough to deal with Utah?
yes.
Probably with stars. I mean, no
but
offense
the
to anybody
pettiness will
involved,
run
but-
deep. Alex, but does this deal make sense? Let's just talk about it functionally. Let's get the egos out of the front offices out of the way. Functionally, do you like Kyle and 18? Future seconds the Heat don't have for Colin Sexton, KO, and 28.
I think it would have to be, you subtract those seconds and maybe the Heat would be willing to do it, but that's about it. Kind of the price that the Jazz would be paying for moving up 10 spots. It's a pretty nice jump for them, for a team that's, I would say probably going to be looking forward to rebuilding. Although Sexton is still a pretty young player, I don't know that he's a part of their long-term plans. Maybe he could be, and I'm underrating him. I think he's a pretty good player.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could be useful for the Heat, whether as a starter or as a bench player. He's a pretty good player. Can score the ball. Lowry, if the Heat are not going to just extend it. I mean, I don't know what the hell Kyle's going to do after next year when his contract is up, if he wants to keep playing or not. But assuming that the Heat do not want to keep him on for more than next season at most, like, it makes sense to replace him with somebody like Sexton, who feels like, he has a little bit of untapped potential, nothing, all-star level, but somebody who can be a nice contributor for a good team. I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, I like that move.
Back. I don't hate that either.
I like that move too. We got one more super chat comment, and then I think we're going to pivot to some draft stuff here for a little bit. And it comes from Nembot Mamo. I think I got it. $4.99. I don't have a trade idea, but I would love a rotation player like a Naz Reid or Rui Hachimura in free agency. Sorry for not answering the question. I guess, Sean, I'll give this one to you. Naz Reid, we know they can't go out in free agency. So I think ultimately people have to come to terms with that. This would be a vet minimum player, or you have to kind of look at the trade market. Am I already answering that question, or Sean, do you have anything to add to it?
No, I agree with you. Naz Reid, what's his recovery status? Like, I know he was injured at the end of the season. When's he going to be back?
You're right.
You can't even really do a sign and trade anyway.
No,
I don't think
all
I don't
that
think
stuff
people,
is like
I don't think people understand that. Like, they financially, because of where they're at, they can't really execute a sign and trade right now. And
they maybe could now, but by the league year next year, they'd have to figure out how to get out of it, and they wouldn't be able to, and that would be the issue. So I would encourage everyone to go back and listen to the podcast with Bobby Marks we did. It was very informative about why the Heat don't want to get to that second apron. Is our special draft guest here yet, or hasn't popped in yet? I just want to make sure
he was here waiting, and it was just bad timing. Now he's not here at the moment.
Got you. Okay,
he's back.
He's here.
Back.
That is awesome. So let's shift to some NBA draft stuff, and I am very excited to welcome in the co-host of 3 Yards Per Carry, the most listened to independent Miami Dolphins podcast on planet Earth. One of the, I would say when the NFL draft is coming up, I go to CK Parrott, as he is on Twitter, Chris Kaufman. I go to CK for all of my insights. Thank you for joining us. I know you are a draft enthusiast as well, and we're not going to keep you center stage as the only one shown for too long. CK, I think you're going to bring up players that you like, and this is just me totally guessing, that the Heat maybe haven't worked out yet, and I have that list, or players that we haven't really talked much about for Miami. But welcome to the program, one, and two, let's dive right the hell in. Who are your favorite guys for Miami at 18?
You know, it's funny. Earlier, I saw you say, I saw somebody say rather that that it looks like Brady's a first rounder. The rest of you all are summer league invites. I'm the guy from the stands that's taking a half court shot by Dr. Pepper or something like that. That's
I'm timeout.
Yeah. Or maybe you're just down to so many injuries that you're asking the crowd for participants. No, I do like some guys, and I think that it's interesting you bring up that these are guys that they haven't talked to, because I'm not sure, based on the list of people that they have talked to or that they brought in for interviews, or not interviews but workouts and whatnot. I kind of wonder if they're really just blanketing the undrafted market, or kind of feeling things out in the later stages. I don't know if the Heat are particularly clandestine in their approach with respect to who they're visiting, who they're seen talking to, and such. Obviously, I would know more about Miami's habits that way rather than the Heat. But if I'm looking at the 18th pick, and especially if this pick could be later traded, or the player, I said, as an asset, then you want to take advantage of the Heat's. I think there's kind of a mystique around the Heat's player development and their ability to identify talent. And I think they've earned that. And so you kind of wonder, as soon as they take a guy, does his Q score rise? You know, like if they take a guy at 18, does that just make him seem just a little bit more desirable? And so I think you kind of want to swing for the fences, not swing for doubles and singles. So when you're looking at a guy like Jet Howard, who's Juwan's kid, Heat fit, great. Heat fit in the offense. You could see exactly how it'd slip in there. But
not a swing for the fence move.
Not a swing for the fence move. And you're going to turn around and trade Juwan's son. I kind of wonder about that. So I would be looking at guys, obviously now it seems obvious that guys like Kobe Buffkin and Cason Wallace are probably going to go too high. Do you guys agree on that?
I mean, I hope not, but it sounds like they're mocked. They usually are mocked higher than that.
Yeah.
Have y'all seen them mocked to Miami? I haven't seen it happen yet. There's little whispers Cason Wallace could be dropping out of nowhere, which
that's a pipe dream.
He ain't dropping that far.
Yeah. I've seen, some latest mocks, and I don't know how much to trust it, but high enough that that I don't think that the Heat could go. And there is a weirdness about this draft. You mentioned it earlier, the between 18 and 40. There's guys that you could mock to the Heat at 18 that could also go at 40. It is a very strange draft that way. But if those guys are kind of, I would swing for the fences with somebody like Leonard Miller, James Nagy. I think that Trace Jackson Davis is a good player that is worth consideration. I do wonder. This is not necessarily a swing for the fences guy, but nobody can also tell me why he's going to go so low, and that's Kobe Brown of Missouri.
That's true.
Everybody loves him. I'm just trying to track, social commentary and stuff like that. Everybody seems to love the guy, but nobody seems to think that he could go that high, and I kind of wonder about that.
I think Ringer had him high, and I see that Miami Heat Beat popped in here and says Cason Wallace is slotted at 18 in the Draft Express mock, latest mock draft, which is usually one of the ones that NBA heads like to go to. James Najee is a name that, and I hope I said his name correctly just now, because I don't think I've said his name this whole cycle.
Mhm.
Brian, Alex, Brady, do y'all know anything about him? Because I really didn't do my homework there. I know CK can tell us about him, but do any of y'all know anything about James Najee?
I just know he's huge.
All right.
So some people are trying to compare him to Serge Ibaka, which is interesting.
Okay.
I don't know if that's gonna be how that turns out.
Do you want to go back up 5 here at number 18, though? Do you want to go
No.
with basically what they did a couple of seasons back with kind of the precious choice?
No, if you're staying at 18, a lot of people in the chat are shouting Omax Prosper, and they should be shouting Omax Prosper because this dude was not even like he was maybe a second round pick at the time the Big East tournament rolled around. And I talked to a couple people at the tournament while I was covering it who said, yeah, he's probably going to be a good second round draft choice for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, he killed it at the combine. He's been killing it in workouts with teams. He's been really good. I know there's a couple of teams in the teens that really like him, and he's somebody who got a green room invite because now he's expected to go into the top 20 or 25 in the draft. If the Heat keep the pick, Omax Prosper is one of the guys that I think they're going to really, really look at because he is the most Heat-ass dude in this draft because he hustles, he's multi-positional, he can defend multi-positions, he needs to develop his three-point shot, but he can score a little bit, can defend and do all those things. Like he's sort of the one that and also Marquette, right? As Griffin says, he's Jimmy 2.0. I don't know if he's that because Jimmy, people forget, was really good in college, but Omax Prosper is one of those dudes. And then Chris Murray, if you're looking to fill like that stretch 4 need, Chris Murray is quintessential, like one of the better stretch 4 prospects in this draft. There's a lot of options there if you keep that 18th pick. Those are the two that I would like really pay the most attention to, though.
Before we go through the next few prospects, take a few comments. I see Amani Bates, Major Passons asks about Amani Bates as a project, and I do think that's something to talk about. But before we do, I want to tell you about another great sponsor, and that is Mortgage by Arash. So if you need to get a quick closing, you need to go to mortgagebyarash.com. They have competitive rates, down payment options as low as 3%, fast closings, most in less than 20 days. That's unheard of. Credit score starting at 620, so he can work with you. First-time home buyer programs available, borrower assistance programs available. If you need help with down payment and closing costs, he will figure it out. So if you need a quick purchase, he got you covered. 954-651-2057. Again, he's a huge Heat fan. Reach out to him. Holler at him about the draft, free agency. That's mortgagebyarash.com, mortgagebyarash.com, 954-651-2057. Brady Hawk, who's your favorite player at 18? I heard a name from CK. Is it okay if I just call you CK? That's what Ethan always calls you. I don't know if like you put it on the screen. I'm perfect now. I'm good.
Yeah.
So I heard a name, James Najee, and that got a lot of comments. Sorry, I'm like reading comments and trying to talk, and I shouldn't do that. And so it appears as if the commenters like that idea. Omax is absolutely in the mix, as Brian brings up. Brady Hawk, who do you like at 18 so far? Or, and I don't want to, because Alex is famous for maybe like rattling off 8 or 9 names that he likes. Don't do an Alex Toledo right here. Who do you like at 18 that we haven't spoke about yet?
Okay, so I'll give you one name eventually, but I'll just start with saying, first of all, the Omax thing, like I really like Omax a lot. And the funny thing is the fact that like you go even look right now at everybody saying in the comments, just the fact that everybody thinks they're going to draft him means they're absolutely probably not going to draft him because this happens every year. There was like 3 guys like, okay, one of these 3 guys is going to be, and then it's some random guy that everybody's like clicking onto YouTube immediately after the pick. So that's one thing. The other thing is when we're talking about bigs, you mentioned one of them, the other one, Derek Lively. I know I brought up, I think we'll see if he could potentially fall. But it just feels like this is not a draft for bigs. Like there's like a couple of them in this range. It feels like a force. And if you heard, we talked about everything Pat said yesterday, he meant the opposite. The one thing that he was telling the truth about was when he said they're going for best player available. I totally believe that. They're not looking for fit. They're not looking for anything. And especially we could talk trades and all this stuff. if you're trying to flip somebody after the fact, after you make the pick, you better go best player available. So with that said, I think there's a limit on bigs, but it feels like in this range, there's just so many set shooters. Like there's just guys, really good catch and shoot guys, movement shooters. And then I look at this Heat team and I see Max in free agency that we're kind of expecting to see what she does to walk. Every trade package that we just discussed a second ago, Duncan Robinson is the salary filler. And it's like you get to a point where like, yeah, you can keep going the undrafted route and get a set shooter or whatever and kind of develop them. But if you're sitting here at 18 and they have all these type of guys to kind of look at, it's interesting. So there's guys like you mentioned, the Jet Howards, the Jordan Hawkins, I think is an interesting name that people keep bringing up. The weird name, I mean, not a weird name, but I'll say the name that I don't know why, but I just keep liking is Ben Shepherd. Because I don't know, I just feel like he's one of those guys that just going to sneak up, and he's just a really good set shooter. He's a really good movement shooter. I think the way he played that, just what I've seen from him, is similar to the stuff they've run with kind of Duncan and Max. He's been used in a lot of those similar sets. So it's interesting because there's also guys like I think you guys mentioned his name already, like the Leonard Millers. Like that's a Heat guy. Like that is 100% a Heat guy. It's one of those just defensive, in the mud, rebounding, doing all the dirty work type thing. But like when I keep hearing best player available, is that what you're going for at pick 18 the first round?
I don't think they're going to take Leonard Miller.
Yeah, it's just
I could be wrong.
I don't even think he got a green room invite, which means they're probably not expecting him to go that high in the draft.
The fact I just said this out loud means the Heat are absolutely taking him. Brady, continue to talk. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
So yeah, that was pretty much it. It's just like depends on, as much as we're going to split it up into brackets, like the bigs, the shooters. There's obviously a couple guards I know a lot of people like Nick Smith Jr. is a fun one. The Jalen Hood Shafino, I think is his name. That guy is really solid. But it's interesting as well with the Gabe thing and everything else. I know it's not about position, but I don't think like Miami's just never been a team like in this range to like take a small guard that they can maybe develop and put in these situations. Like it's just not what I would expect, to be honest. But like guys like Hood Shafino would be like an exception. Like the Nick Smith Juniors would be an exception just because they're like incredible athletes with incredible skill. And when you're picking at 18 compared to getting stuff in the past, like this is talent. This isn't undrafted. Like this is absolute talent that you could probably work with. So I know I said a lot of names, but the one name that I think I don't know why I just keep coming back to is Ben Shepherd.
And Ben Shepherd is one that they've worked out. And I'm going to quickly ramble off the 13 names that I know that they've worked out. They added one today, and it's going to make everyone laugh because no one on this panel will know anything about him. So let me just run through these. Keyshawn Bryant from South Florida. I'm going to say some of these names wrong, and I don't care. Jamie Jaquez Jr. from UCLA. Thank you. Maybe you should do this instead. Javon Johnson from DePaul. I'm just going to call him AirPods from Santa Clara. Brandon Podzimski. Craig Porter Jr. from Wichita State. Omax from Marquette. We've already talked about. Nick Smith Jr. from Arkansas. Jordan Walsh from Arkansas. Isaiah Wong from the U. Ben Shepherd, as Brady mentioned. Chris Murray, they worked out. And Jet Howard, they worked out late in the game. CK has me totally mind bleeped with they won't trade Jawan's son. And now I'm like, wait a minute. Maybe they're not going to take Jet Howard. You've completely got me rattled there. But I do want Alex to weigh in here about who his favorite guy is among the players maybe that I just named that worked out, or just generally throughout the draft, the guys that you like most. And I know that we definitely want to get Sean back in here as well, but I want to give CK another chance to close us out on some of his final draft thoughts before we move maybe to some undrafted talk down the road, which everyone gets excited about. But no, Alex, continue with your favorite guys at 18.
Well, my guys are not going to be any kind of out-of-the-box picks. I'm not a draft expert. I always say that when we talk about the draft. It's with the way that the playoffs ended, like, what was that, like a few days ago, and then it's turned it into the Damon Beal stuff. It's been really hard trying to catch up, right? It feels like, we're thinking about so many different things, but I have mostly caught up on everybody, more or less everybody that's in the Heat's range. And I think maybe the safest pick is Jet Howard. And that's why I think it feels like the most likely, other than the Juwan connection. You threw in a video on Twitter the other day, Leif, where I forgot who he was talking to. I think it was Andy Katz of The Athletic, where he was talking about all the time he spent around Spo, Bam, certain Heat players and certain Heat people. The fact that he can fit in right away, the fact that he's 6'8", so you can maybe
like
kind
such
of
a tell.
yeah, like you know the flaws with him are really on the defensive end. I think at that point you would be betting on the Heat to kind of fix his discipline stuff on defense. I mean, he's got a 6'8" frame. I think they've made up for guys with worse physical frames on defense before. I think you would basically have to, if the Heat feel good enough about him on defense, like they can kind of clean that up, then I think it's a really good pick, safe pick, who can kind of fit no matter what you do with the roster. And like Brady kind of mentioned there, as far as picking a shooter in this draft, whether it's him or Hawkins or Bryce Sensabaugh or whichever shooter you like, Ben Shepherd, it feels like one of them at least is going to be gone this offseason. It feels like an easy bet that one of Max or Duncan is going to be gone. Perhaps both, perhaps not. I'm not 100% sure, but it feels like an easy bet that one of them is going to be gone based on the second apron stuff. And so picking a guy like Jet, I think would be cool because he can fit in right away with what they do as a shooter, but he can do a little bit more than that. I said on playback last night, he's got a little bit of a bag to him, and he's a nice passer out of the sets that they run. He doesn't hold the ball. I think he could fit in right away, and it would just be kind of a project on defense. But yeah, like he's 6'8", so he's probably the safest pick. I also like Omax. It seems like he is more of a shutdown defender than, let's say, an off-ball weak side guy as a 4, which I think he would try to use him in. The guy that Riley kind of described when he spoke sounded kind of like Omax. If you want somebody else of his build, I think Leonard Miller will be cool. There will be questions about his shot, but I don't know if he's going to be available. Noah Clowney's another guy who's kind of that build, but I think he's kind of a 4-5 hybrid. So I don't know. It just depends on what skill set they want to go for, and I think Jet Howard is probably the safest pick.
Well, Brady and Alex got like 5 names each. So Brian, you literally were so succinct and you gave me one name, told me why, and we moved right on. So I'm giving you a shot with another name here that you like as well before I give the floor to CK, and then Sean can jump back in the mix here.
If you want to name who could fall to them,
that's fun.
Jordan Hawkins is interesting. I don't know how high he's going to go, but he's in best shooter in the draft territory.
He is.
We were talking about this on a pod I did with Action Network in terms of like betting on this. Jordan Hawkins is somebody whose over-under has been like weird because people don't really know if he's going to go 12, 13, 14, whatever. And I've seen mock drafts this week that have him closer and closer to 18. I'm looking at one right now, NBADraft.net, which is one of the only mock drafts that I'll probably look at from time to time because a lot of people are just copying each other's mock drafts. Let's be serious. Jordan Hawkins, that's all they're doing. It's like they look at, well, what does Bleacher Report have? What does Kevin O'Connor have? What does Draft Express have? All right, aggregate it. Oh, everyone it's like high school. Everybody's cheating on each other's tests, but they're switching up a couple different answers. And it's like, instead of getting 100 where I'm giving it away, they're just getting an 85 or a 90. That's all everybody's doing with their mock drafts. But anyway, this one has Jordan Hawkins at number 17. That's one pick away. I don't think Miami's going to trade up. I could see them also trading back. This second round is a second round you're going to want to like potentially have a pick in, especially because of the cap rules or whatever. You want as many cheap sort of talents you could find. Emoni Bates is I think we need to talk about him for just 2 seconds. Emoni Bates, I don't know if he's going to go in the first round. At last I checked, he was like plus 5,000. I'm not joking, plus 5,000 to go into the first round. The expectation is not that he'll get into the first round, but maybe worth a long shot bet. But he was the best player in the country and in high school, along with Chet Holmgren at one point. Negative wingspan, off the court troubles, inconsistent play. The dude is very talented. Someone's going to make a talent bet on him. Someone's going to make a talent bet on Amari Bailey, who's another guy who could potentially sneak into the first round or is more than likely a second round pick, who was awesome in high school, not as great in college. And those are 2 guys that I'd be looking at in terms of talent bets. Emoni Bates, Amari Bailey, if you do move back and get another pick later on.
I like that you brought up Emoni Bates because the Heat paid close attention to him throughout his college run. They scouted him extensively. They didn't work him out, but I know that they watched him as they did guys like Marcus Sasser out of Houston. They followed Houston around a lot. And I'm looking at, you mentioned Kevin O'Connor's latest mock draft. He has the guy who I butchered his name. Is it Jaime? Is that how you say it?
Jaime Jaquez. He's Mexican,
Jaime
bro.
Jaquez Jr., UCLA seniors mocked there. And Grady Dick is all the way down to 19. That's the lowest I've seen him mocked anywhere. And
You
Omax
pronounced
is
his
20.
name right.
I did. That is not a good sign. And there's a lot of these guards that are falling. Excuse me. CK, just when you talk about overall the draft and trading back, as Brian just alluded to specifically, the second round now, it holds a different like those positions. You don't need to use exception money if you want to sign those guys to deals that are beyond veteran minimum or like minimum type scale contracts. There's actually rookie scale deals for second round picks. So it's starting to become more NFL like in that the second round actually matters in the NBA all of a sudden. And I know that the second round is like huge in the NFL, and it's just becoming more and more important. Are there guys later that we haven't talked about? Maybe some names that, like, for instance, the Heat worked out Wyoming senior forward Hunter Maldonado, who I'm going to be dead honest, I've never watched a moment
He's
of
good.
him. I need to go look up more about him. But are there names we haven't mentioned that you like, and just kind of any other of your final Miami Heat or general NBA draft thoughts?
Well, I would say that if we're talking about this, I mean, two guys that I mentioned already, I don't know if they could go as high as 18. I mean, I had seen some people talk about, kind of the whispers out of the NBA programs are that there are teams that really love James Nagy, and he could even go in the 17 to 20 area, stuff like that. But then again, you see him mocked all over the place, maybe even down in the second round at, number 39, 38, 40. That kind of area. So is he one of those guys? Is Kobe Brown one of those guys? The overall thing that I look at with the Heat, well, and Najee, by the way, I will stump for him just a little bit, in as much as he's only 18 years old and he is a ridiculous athlete for his size. I put on whether we're talking about NFL or we're talking about NBA draft prospects, and you're looking at them, if you've got an eye for athletes, the guys that are bouncy, explosive, agile, controlled, balanced, those kinds of things. I put on a little bit of tape of that guy, and I just giggled for 10 minutes. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, looking at him kind of reminds you of looking at Bam Adebayo's stuff before when he was coming out. He's a ridiculous athlete. Yes, he's basically a blank slate offensively, but a defensive, 1 through 5, and you're like, yeah, that's just Precious Achiuwa all over again, and maybe so, but maybe also they're trading this guy, whoever they're taking. So I would just overall take from this. If you look at their pattern with like Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, where's the extra sauce? That's the question that you've got to ask yourself, because a lot of these guys are going to fit into molds, right? This guy is this guy is that, this guy is that. But I think that the Heat, like with Tyler Hero, some people he's just a shooter, and at that time we needed shooters. So I think that he's just a shooter. But then you go back and you look at high school and you look at his ball handling, and they're like, wait a minute, that was a little bit extra. Bam Adebayo, he was Bismack Biyombo, right?
Yeah,
Clint Capella. Yeah.
Nekias Duncan said the night he was drafted, he said they could have just signed Ekpe Udoh to do what they're going to have Bam do. And I remind him of that just because Nekias is such a brilliant basketball mind, and it just should remind everyone to approach this process with humility. But continue, CK.
Yeah, and I think Bam Adebayo is a good example of like, because they have strong connections with the program and the workouts and stuff, they knew things about Bam shooting and his touch that maybe we didn't know, and we don't get access to that information. But either way, I think they are looking at it like, okay, where's that little bit of extra? And so when we're looking at these prospects, especially at 18, if they're going to take one of the guys at 18 and it's going to be a best player available, I think there's got to be a little extra there. And that's why I talk about, a Leonard Miller, because, he's lengthy. He's a guy that can play, 5'4", but also he's been a point guard in Canada. You know,
Wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, and I think that that's a little bit extra. No, he might not be a point forward when all things are said and done in the NBA. But then again, do you need him to quite be that in order to think of that as a little extra juice for his case to be made as a draft prospect? And so all of these guys, like you bring up Omax Prosper, I look at him and I could see what to get excited about. He's a good looking guy. I do see, like, is he a Rui Hachimura? Like, is that what we're looking at? But if he's killing the workouts and the Heat see something that's more than that, then there's your guy. You know, that's your guy. So I would just say, always look at that through that lens with the Heat. Is okay. This is a guy that fits a role, but there's something extra.
That's
and
so
what
true.
is it? And I think that's how I tend to approach it.
I could not agree more. And I think that with Bam, Tyler, you hear the stories about like that Spo wants to throw a ball underneath the table and have guys just go get it and see who comes out from the scuffle with the ball and stuff like that. It's like that little extra. And Bam was challenged in his workout, and we all know that he famously dropped some F-bombs and such. I know Tyler has that competitive spirit. So you're right. It is about finding that guy. And a lot of us, by watching YouTube highlights, will not be able to necessarily pinpoint that. CK, we greatly appreciate you joining us, jumping on here, giving you your insights from the draft, because we don't typically get to listen to your analysis except for when it's football season. But I highly encourage everybody to check out 3 yards per carry. Check out everything that Alfredo Artiega and he does. It's the best Miami Dolphin podcast on planet Earth, and I will not be told otherwise. We're going to have Sean jump back in here, but we definitely appreciate you hopping on the mega preview with us.
Yeah, thanks for letting me come on and amateur my way into your onto the same screen with you guys. So
yeah, no, that's not even, you're being too modest, but we appreciate you joining us, man.
All right, thanks.
Later. So Sean's going to jump back in here, and people are asking about Paul George trades. So yes, y'all, we're going to go back to trades, and we're going to hit about an hour here, and that's okay. Jay Sanchez comes in with, what are your thoughts on Prosper from Marquette? Man, we've talked a lot about him. I think you're going to have to rewatch the stream, but here's the Paul George news. I'll just say this. The Heat have always loved Paul George's game ever since he played. It was probably that series against LeBron that sold them. They at one time offered Goran Dragic, Justice Winslow, and change to try to get him out of Indiana. I know that. I'm taking it back quite a while for that one, and I probably shouldn't have said it out loud. I know they like him. It's just a matter of that I think they're going to wait out for Dame. Any of y'all feel differently? Should they pivot to PG? I know that our homie Eternal wants to do that immediately. Sean, you haven't had a chance to speak in too long. Do you think that Paul George is something that they should immediately apply pressure if this Dame thing starts to look weird after tomorrow night?
So prioritize, I would say no. I would go after Dame first. Obviously, they know more than us about how that's going, but I would also say positionally, I think Paul George, because you can slot Gabe back into the point guard spot, I think you could fit a better roster, if that makes sense, because I trust Gabe at point guard, and then you would have those big wings now. We would actually be pretty big on the wing.
We would.
George. So I think it's interesting. And obviously he has his own concerns with injuries and things like that. But, depending on the cost, but I do think, and I'm sure somebody will bring this up in the comments, the fact that they're opening up that new arena, are they really going to dismantle what they have? And it's funny to say that because our fans have the walls caving in, and we just played in the finals about 8 days ago. But what they have, in quotes, and
folks,
and break that up going into a new arena. So I think it's you definitely pursue it. Don't get me wrong, but there are some pros and cons to it.
I was going to ask really quickly though, did the trade today make you think any differently about the situation? Like the fact that they're adding extra pieces like a Brogdon or something and trying to build up the team, like does that make you think they're not going to trade him?
I think that makes some sense. I mean, why the hell are you taking Marcus Morris's big fat expiring contract and not just letting it expire and taking on Brogdon and giving up a pick to do it? Or somebody somebody gave up a pick in that process to give to Washington to facilitate. I think it was the Clippers. That's interesting. And I know they needed a guard. We talked about Lowry heading to the Clippers. So that's probably now no longer going to be something that we
No,
need
it could still happen. It could still happen because Brogdon's not really like a true point guard.
That's true. That's true. They need a ton there. Sean, we didn't get a chance to. They need a ton in the backcourt. I should specify. I don't know where Russ is going to go.
Also,
why the hell am I spending too much time talking about the Clippers? Y'all got to stop me.
Real quick on the Paul George financials. He's on a much shorter deal than Damian Lillard is, and whatever number you have to get to Damian Lillard, Paul George is basically the same. He's making $45 million this upcoming season. Has a player option for $48.8 the year after. So it's really just 2 years if he opts in. Which $48 million he probably will, unless he kills it this year, then wants more years. But Paul George maybe doesn't cost you as much. And I think whatever deal the Heat make is going to be a 3-team deal anyway. I don't know if Tyler Hero ends up with the Clippers in that package or Kyle Lowry might, but I don't know what the final product is going to look like, but it's probably going to be a 3 or 4-team deal is my guess.
And I do think you're going to see a lot of 3-team deals and a lot of people get moved for packages that are kind of crazy. And Miami Heat beat comes in saying number 30 from the Clippers is being sent to Washington. Still not final, but it could expand to the Beal trade so it can get a large trade exception. That's interesting news that we're adding to the show. Thank you for adding that value and putting the comment up, Sean. You didn't get to talk about the draft enough. So I am pivoting back to you now because we are being a little looser here and we are going to take a few more comments and make sure we address anything we haven't yet. But I want you to talk 18. Who's your favorite pick?
Well, I think you guys covered the top 65 to 70 prospects in the draft. So
I just want to know who you like. I don't want you to give me the analysis. Cut the shit. Just tell me who you like. No,
I'm kidding. Look, I think one thing to keep in mind is last year our first round pick obviously didn't play a whole lot this year. So he's almost in a way like our first round pick again. I think that's one way to look at it. So they're going
to say you're saying they're getting Oladipo at the deadline again.
No, listen, but I say that in that he could give you the opportunity to take one of those guys that needs develop. Like you talked about Najee, you talked about some of these guys that's not plug in right away. And I don't necessarily think that's why at 18 you take certain guys. I like Jaime Jaquez. I mean, he's a guy that I like. I like Omax. I know Hawkins. I mean, the guys that I really, though, I think buying into the second round, and I don't know what, Greg or anybody thinks about that. I think there's a lot of guys that I would just like to put in our pipeline and develop. And I think you can do that in any draft because we have such a good development program. But like you talked about the Imani Bates, Shepard, who else am I forgetting? Sasser was brought up, and Amari Bailey, Sanogo, someone also brought up. And Terquavion Smith, I don't think was brought up. He's a guy that's kind of like a Lou Williams, Jordan Crawford. Like I can get a bucket, but he can't stay in front of any of the five of us. Like he can't play any defense. So like those are the guys that I would like to see us put out, and try to maybe take a stab at if you use somebody in the second round, or obviously if they go undrafted. But no, I think you guys have covered it very well.
Who do you think Portland will want at 18?
Ooh,
Portland, man.
Alex, who does Portland want at 18? You got this ready to go.
Who does Portland want at 18? I have not thought about that whatsoever. I guess somebody who is
I went to you.
High upside, Nick Smith, because it's not going to matter. You're not going to need to win now. High upside pick at 18.
Good call. Of the second round,
can I ask you a quick question, Leif? Sorry to go away from this.
I can stop playing quarterback.
No. This is not even draft related. This is just a quick thing. If you had to bet money, doesn't the PG thing feel like another situation where he was never available to the Heat and people are going to get mad when it inevitably doesn't happen?
They're going to continue to do that over and over again. And then the Heat are going to continue to have successful seasons. And then they're going to.
I'm super skeptical that he's actually available. You guys already went over some of the reasons. And I know I'm with you. Hammering that. It's just like, if he is available, he's probably going to get traded for another star and not going to get sold off for picks and Tyler Hero. Greatest owner in the league, new arena. The owner's been loud about how they want to be a perennial championship contender. And all they've kind of gotten, is injured runs with Kawhi and PG. So maybe they look to shake it up, maybe exchange for another star. But like, how is he going to end up here? I don't see it.
But Alex, that's why I think they could actually, even with the new arena shit, I think they could actually look to break that up, because it's almost like you just need a reset. It's not working out. It's not you, it's me. And then they have to, Kawhi
It
Leonard
feels like you're
falls
supposed
short.
to do the opposite, especially when that's all you talk about is going for contenders. Now is the time where you want people to spend all that money for the new arena and this luxury experience, and now you're gonna go blow it up and see what type of picks you can get. I mean, it just
No, but I think the way Miami would do it though is, like I was saying, like a 3 or 4 team deal where Tyler goes somewhere else.
But then why
And
wouldn't?
then
So that assumes that there's, the best player in the deal isn't Tyler, and that's who the Clippers get. Why wouldn't whoever is going to the Clippers? Why wouldn't that team get PG? You get what I'm saying?
yeah. But this, I mean,
They
look,
may have other
multiple-
motives. They may be
if-
trying to cut salary or that's the
bring in
weird
a
part of
team-
this that we can't answer. So
right.
it's,
But we have to come up with these specific situations for
Yeah,
how
but
PG.
it's
You're
weird,
right.
though. Like, look at how the Jimmy Butler deal turned out, right? Like, Dallas was supposed to be involved at one point, and then they
Oh my
figured it
gosh.
out and whatever. Like, that
What a
shit was a
mess.
mess. Goran Dragic was going somewhere. Is there Karl Anthony Towns has a comparable salary? Is Minnesota going to get involved in this? Is there another rebuilding team that you could put Tyler on? Like, are the Spurs going to be like, all right, fine, we'll just take Tyler Hero? Like, there's a lot of shit that can happen here that I think would blow people's minds if we went through like really all the possibilities. But just think about like the other guys who could potentially get traded at some point. Karl Anthony Towns, we don't know like what the status of that is. And there was Trae Young rumors at one point. I don't think that's necessarily happening, but you never know, because the next Toronto star in the NBA is always right around the corner. And that could really just play out very quickly if teams don't make certain moves between now and then, which brings us back to Damian Lillard to begin with.
all the way back to square one, but we're not getting off that easy. And we do have a contest to tell you about, and we have more to talk about. And somebody just said Trey Spo to Portland, and just stop it. That is absolutely the worst idea ever. But the one thing I wanted to go through here is the pivot players. So everybody is asking me for, if we don't get Dame, what guy will we get? So just quickly want to go around, and we're going to announce this Better Edge competition we have going on around the NBA draft. Sean has a fun, it's basically like a questionnaire, a trivia, and I think we're going to rapid fire go through some of those questions too. So I want to make sure we get to that and shout out Better Edge. But I'm interested from y'all's perspective, and I will go, and here's Sean showing where you can go right now to the 5 Reasons Sports Twitter page, and you can find the ability to get an NBA draft jersey. It's a free entry. You just answer questions, and then you will get the ability to win an NBA draft player. You can get a Wemby jersey. You can order a whoever the Heat take at 18. You can, who knows, maybe wait and see who the Heat mine out of the second round and then order your jersey. No, I joke. But check out that competition. For anybody who doesn't know about Better Edge, let me just tell you quickly about them, because a lot of people ask, like, what is different about Better Edge than other sports books? Because it is, a little bit different. It's a web-based sports app. It's the stock exchange for sports betting, and it's a social betting marketplace where users buy and sell their betting positions without a VIG. Instead of a traditional sports book where the book sets the price and accepts your bet, takes fees, pays out winnings, Better Edge Marketplace connects users on opposite sides of the bet at their own set prices. So you can use our code 5RSN, get $20 to play right now. You can enter our contest as well. That's free to do. You don't got to do anything. Go to the contest. You see the URL posted right there. It's betteredge.com /5RSN -draft. That's just for the questionnaire. But then also go to app.betteredge.com 5RSN. That'll get you $20 to play right now. Pivot moves. I haven't wrapped my head around who my favorite, like if we don't get Beal, if we don't get Dame. I didn't think that the Beal and the Dame stuff was about to escalate that quickly as the finals ended, y'all. Like, I wasn't prepared for that, frankly. I didn't see that boiling as quickly as it boiled. I knew Miami was going to check in. And so because those situations have now consumed so much of the attention and so much of the conversations as I text people and sleuth around for information, I don't really have a pivot name, but I want to pick this panel's brain of guys that they like. Jose says trade for Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns can't play with Jimmy Butler because Jimmy Butler won't let him. And Anthony Edwards would be great, but that's never happening. Brady Hawk, who's your favorite pivot player? And I don't mean it has to be a front court down low, but more about like a fallback option type of trade candidate that you like around the league. And if I'm putting you on the spot, just pass the ball to someone else who may have a name ready.
No, I'll say I think the big one that I feel like keeps getting thrown around is just the Zach LaVine stuff. Just because, look, there's only a number of teams that have good high-level players that you want to trade for and are not in win-now mode. And it seems like you got to look at those middle ground teams like the Pelicans, like the Bulls, like all those play-in teams. And I guess Zach LaVine would kind of be the next guy. If we're just going down the guard list of guys that might be on the market, it just feels like he's the next guy. Then you start to make questions of what a deal looks like, what the value looks like in comparison to what we're talking about, because it's probably in the middle of a Dame and a Beal, I would say. It's somewhere in the middle of what both of those packages look like. So then that's when you have to start making decisions. I mean, it's a guy that just averaged 25 points a game, I think. Like I looked at the other day, but he was like close to 50% shooting from the field, I think a little below that. So it's interesting. It's a dynamic that you're going to have to see how quickly they turn, because as much as, like we said, they talk about not swinging for the fences and as much as we talked about it with them hyping up Tyler and stuff, it's they mean a lot of the stuff they say. They obviously Tyler is a pivotal piece of this core, but they're willing to, I guess, at some point to throw it into to make that next move for a Dame. The question is with the LaVine type, like where do they land on that? Is that swinging for the fences? Is that making that all in move? Because then that's kind of your final puzzle piece to kind of figure out. So those are the questions you have to have. So I guess Zach LaVine would kind of be, I guess, the next name that we're probably doing podcasts on the most, I guess, if the Dame thing doesn't materialize.
Yeah, I also think that they're going to be super careful if the Dame stuff doesn't happen and not. I mean, Paul George is a no-brainer. LaVine, I start to blink a little bit if we're talking about hero and emptying out all the draft picks. So that's where I stand there today. Sean Rochester, your favorite player that we haven't talked about from a trade perspective. And it could be a number of players. Just, we're loose here. I want to, names maybe that we haven't heard yet that you like as potential options that maybe have been called out as available, etc.
I mean, besides obviously Andre Blatch and Larry Sanders, which were going to be my first two go-tos, but I don't know. They're always up there. Them and John Collins have been on our target list now for about a decade. But let me throw this name out there, and it's not. I'm not saying this is like my favorite player, but I'm just throwing a different name that may not get brought up. We always talk about like the Kyle Lowry Duncan package, right? The expiring when then you're getting off of Duncan's number. What about trading those guys to Philly? What about Tobias Harris? He's an expiring huge contract, and you might have to attach draft capital to get out of Duncan still. And obviously Kyle has his connection to Philly. And I know Tobias is overpaid. Do not get me wrong. But he's a big wing that you could put at the 4. He can shoot the ball. He's strong enough to guard, I would say up, but he's not a great defender. I get that. But like, what do you think about? I'm just like throwing, something at the wall, just a random name.
Alex.
It's funny that
I'm just making conversation here.
I mean, look, it's not like the worst option in the world. It's just not like my first backup plan.
Tobias Harris over me.
Yeah, no, that would be kind of awkward. I don't know. I mean, look, it's not the worst option, but that doesn't get me excited. That's for sure.
Bryan, you and I know you've been wanting to go down this road for a while, so now I've teed it up for you.
This is the road everybody wants to go down.
The floor is yours because you've and I appreciate this perspective. So for the listeners here, and I know we're going over an hour and we're going to close here pretty shortly, so just hang with us because there's lots to talk about. You've maintained that even if the Beal stuff doesn't happen, even if the Dame stuff doesn't happen, you are not cooked. Like, you just have to pivot. Mm-hmm. And so that's where like really kind of the inspiration behind me kind of come into this segment. So I go to you. Where are you at? And I know you said Paul George. I'm not going to let you off with that easy one. Let's canvas the league for somebody else that you think could really help Miami, that Kyle Lowry, maybe to Duncan, maybe, if you had to throw in a pick or something like that to get it done, whatever it would be. I'm just interested in the guys that you like.
You have to think about the teams around the league who are eager to shake stuff up. So look at the Chicago Bulls, for example. Now, I think some people would be interested in like DeMar DeRozan. I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think that DeMar DeRozan, Jimmy, and Bam. Like, I don't think you're just gonna win with 2-pointers, and just doing that, and then maybe having 2 shooters around. I mean, maybe it depends, but would Patrick Williams and Alex Caruso be interesting if you get into business with Chicago as opposed to looking at a DeMar DeRozan, for example? Would you look at the Atlanta Hawks and potentially do the John Collins thing? You don't want to do it with that contract. I'm telling you right now, but if you can buy low on John Collins, then maybe that's something that like you would potentially look at.
How about DeAndre Hunter with John Collins? Do we have the money to make that work? I'm the guy that's supposed to know this stuff, but I'm punched.
4 years, 90. So
That's a lot of money.
4 years, $90 million starting this season for DeAndre Hunter.
Oh, okay? And then plus Collins. Never mind.
Yeah, like that's nasty. Pick one or the other, and even so, it's like, but DeAndre Hunter does fit. You have health concerns, but here's the thing, and the thing about people were talking about Paul George and health and whatever. Everybody in the league gets hurt now, except for Nikola Jokic. Everybody in the league gets hurt now. So, like in terms of injury prone, like yes, there are some high risk guys. But like when it comes to the injury prone stuff, yeah. And then look at the Pacers. A guy like Buddy Hield. I think if you're gonna lose Duncan Robinson, Max Strus in some sort of trade, get a shooter that's more reliable. Buddy Hield is excellent. He would fit. I'm not saying Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. I know people are gonna say that because I'm not sure Bam and Miles Turner. Like I don't know if you want that. I know a lot of people want that, but I don't know if you actually want that.
Spo don't want that.
Yeah, Spo doesn't want to play that way. So what are you going to do? Fight?
The Pacers want that. The team that always wants to be competitive.
That's the other thing. Yeah,
take it up with Spo if you don't like that. If you want Miles Turner and go fucking fight him. Like I don't know what to tell you, right? And then you look at the Los Angeles Clippers. We've already talked about, but those are some of the guys that I would probably look at. And also the Raptors. I think the Raptors are probably worth talking about.
Yeah, that comment just grabbed me. Let's talk Raptors for a minute. Is there? I feel like everybody thinks that the way that Dame is going to be convinced to stay in Portland is either Zion or Siakam. Am I wrong?
Listen, if Damian Lillard stays in Portland and if they get Zion Williamson and he's like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna stay, then all right, go ahead, have fun. It
would indicate to me he's not about really about winning championships.
That doesn't make sense. He's played like 16 games in 4 years or whatever it is. Like this just doesn't make any sense. I know it's not 16, not being literal.
Here's a super chat from Rob. He says an under the radar name I would love for the Heat is Norm Powell. I think that's an interesting one to think about actually. The scoring and such, but a lot of this, I think we have to remember is predicated on what they do with Max and Gabe and how that shakes out. Because if they prioritize keeping them two, and I know there'll be a collective groan from Heat Twitter about that. I do think that has something that we need to watch. I think financially it's struggling, but if they're looking to make a salary dump elsewhere with Duncan, who knows? Maybe they do try to keep them two. And then I think a lot of these other options, it gets a little bit weirder with the math. If they just look to dump a salary versus trade and flip one of these guys for a productive player. And there's Powell's next 3 years at 18, 19, 20 over the next 3, which is, for a player that can score 20 a game, it's about what the going rate. I think we've covered most of everything, but I want to make sure we don't miss. Final thoughts from any of you folks. Predictions. That's what we need to do. Put everyone on the spot. Brady Hawk, what the hell's going to happen tomorrow night for the Miami Heat?
Oh, I actually wasn't even going to talk about the Heat. That's what's funny. I was going to say my prediction is that Portland makes their pick just because I keep saying it. It's like the more I think about it, it makes no sense for them not to do that. Like they're in a position now, and I know it's all about like surrounding Dame and all this stuff. But first of all, I just don't think they're going to get a good enough package to do that, especially in this type of draft when you have a top 3 pick. It's like you're in a prime position, and I know it's about hardball, and they're going to keep trying to position it like they're thinking about it and this and that. But ultimately, it just feels like they're going to end up taking a top player, and then we'll see what shakes out with Dame after that. And obviously, that doesn't mean Dame's just going to leave when that happens. But the more I think about it, I can't see them trading that pick.
I'm leaning in your direction. Sean, how you feeling about tomorrow night? Prediction by you? Because we got predictions coming up with the questions as well. So
can I add to that? If you are Charlotte and unless you love Brandon Miller, why are you not telling everyone in the world that I'm taking Scoot Henderson to get people to, like the Jason Tatum where they conned the Sixers into flipping the pick? Why would you not be doing that right now? Because you're the Charlotte Hornets. That's why.
The reports are coming out the opposite. They're saying that they're going to take Miller.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I would be telling everybody, I'm taking Scoot. Opposite, so if you want Scoot, you better be trading up. And if you don't, then I would just take Brandon Miller and be cool with it. But they could get assets and take Brandon Miller at 3. You can't go lower than that, but it's just wild. Are we taking what? Predictions on the Heat's pick?
Predictions on the Heat's pick, and then we want to blast through rapid fire some of your questions from the questionnaire, just so that everyone gets an idea of what they'd be answering, because I think that maybe that'll just be get people to go check that out.
All right, let me make my pick for the Heat's pick is going to be that they take. I'm going to go Jaime Jaquez. That's my pick, and I'm going to queue up the survey while you guys are doing yours.
Bryan Fonseca.
I don't think anyone else is going to say it, so I'll be the one that says it here. Hopefully this will entertain the chat. I think that pick is going to Portland. I think they're going to do it.
Yes, you got the guts. That's what I'm talking about.
Like, listen, because if you're like Bobby Marks said it on 5 on the Floor earlier this week, I'm tired of this shit too. Like, if you're Portland and Damian Lillard, like one of y'all got to make the hard decision. It's not you, it's me shit. It's cute, but like, look, Kevin Garnett. 12 years in Minnesota, and people were like, God, like they're not giving him shit. They got out of the first round one time. He won MVP. He was awesome, whatever. And it's like, this is very reminiscent of that. If Kevin Garnett was able to go to Boston, Damian Lillard, the loyalty shit, yes, it's great. Awesome. Love you for it. If you want to go win, now's the time. Because if it's not now, I don't know when. Because you're also a 6'2" guard who is amazing, who's on a long-term contract, who could potentially break down over the course of it. You have to do something. And I think it's in his best interest. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says in the chat right now, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just letting y'all know this is where I'm at with it. I think Damian Lillard has to pivot. And I think he has to tell Portland and tell Chris Haynes also, because if anyone's breaking that story, it's going to be Chris Haynes. Damian Lillard's going to go up there and say, yeah, all right, it's time. Because why is he going to stay to mentor Scoot Henderson, win 41 games, and just continue being mediocre in the Western Conference? Now is the time. And you have a ready-made situation in Miami. You watch the finals. What do they need on that team? They need exactly what Damian Lillard could bring them. It makes a lot of sense. He told Brian Custer, he's telling Chris Haynes, just make this shit happen. So if I'm gonna have a prediction, I don't give a shit if I'm wrong, because it makes sense. Damian Lillard goes to Miami.
I love it. I feel like
I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow, by the way. At some point during this summer, I think.
How am I supposed to follow that with my prediction? You got Dame, and I obviously can't do that because I will get aggregated. People are joking that you need to be aggregated, and you may get aggregated off of this thing because you are way more of a journalist and a media member than I will ever be, my friend. I'll say this for my prediction. The first name I heard in this draft cycle was Chris Murray. And I'll never forget a story where the first name I heard was Bam Adebayo, and then I never heard it again. And I completely fell off my radar. And then I felt like, what an idiot, because it was the first name given to me and I didn't stick to that. But I also know that they really watched and scouted guys like Ben Shepherd, who I know Brady likes a lot. Like, they like that guy. And so it's a little bit of a tricky situation, but ultimately I am going to land with where I tweeted. I think if he's there, Jet Howard is the pick. That's my prediction. My prediction is going to be wrong. I do all the draft digging, and then I never get the pick right. That's how this works, and I'm okay with that.
Jay Howard will have fun in Portland.
As far as second round guys, I just want y'all to know they like Jordan Walsh from Arkansas a lot. So I would really keep an eye out for him as a late round player that they would come back to. And they also they watched Marcus Sasser a ton. I know he's a small guard. I've mentioned him a couple times, but that's another second round guy that I think is worth watching. And then the last one that I wanted to mention was bear with me here as I'm pulling up all of my picks we got to all of them. That was all of my names. My prediction is in. I want to shout out our sponsors one more time. I think Alex dropped off because who the hell goes for an hour and 20 minutes? But Ethan's
before you do that though, I saw people because I snuck away from making my prediction because for some reason I made a Portland prediction on.
You're right. I got to hold you accountable.
I mean, they were so. No, I was just gonna say that I mentioned Ben Shepherd before, and I don't know if that'll be a reach. The name that I keep thinking about that I think could see Miami going toward, and I know it goes against a lot of things I said before about the shooter, is going with Jalen Hood-Schifino. That's kind of where I've kind of landed. I feel like it's a high chance they do that. Just a guy that's a little bit lengthier that can create off the dribble. They can use them off ball. They can do a little bit of things. I even think in terms of, let's say, I know everybody'd much rather Brian's scenario of having Dame, but let's just say that doesn't happen. And you have to watch a summer league team with the guys that you have on the roster right now, like Jovic and Jamal Cain or Orlando Robinson. They have that front court intact, and they're not trying to build a summer league roster to try to win a championship in the summer league. But I could see things kind of plugged in, and I think that the Jalen Hood-Schifino thing could kind of catch some fire. And I've seen him. I don't know if you guys have seen the same. I just seen him in so many different spots in mock drafts.
Me too. Yeah. And that's honestly, conceptually, I've moved on from them even having the ability to get him. So there's a lot of other names like Jordan Hawkins, I think is going to go higher. But yeah, Jalen Hood-Schifino, if he's there, I'm in. Cason Wallace, if he's there, I'm in. So there's lots of guys that we didn't really expand upon because I think we all agree that we think they're going to go ahead of the pick. Sean, run us through this questionnaire because this will give everyone an idea of what you need to do to potentially win a jersey of one of the new NBA draftees. Run us through these questions. We're going to rapid fire answer them. Brian's up first.
All right. So the link is on the screen, betteredge.com/5RSN-draft. That will take you to this. It's a survey. We'll ask for your phone number. So you can't do this like 65,000 times unless you have a burner phone. Maybe go get like one of those Cricket phones or something if you want to do it a lot of times. But number one, it says who will be the second overall pick. It gives you the options: Brandon Miller, Scoot, Amen Thompson, or the field. Any other player. Brian, what you think?
Number two, I think Brandon Miller's minus 650 now. If it ain't Brandon Miller, then Woj messed up again. He famously got something wrong at the draft last year.
I like that analysis.
It actually gives you. I'm sorry, I thought you were picking that anyways, but no, it gives you the feedback of
Brandon Miller, and then Scoot goes to Portland, and Dame is like, okay, cool, bye, and then Dame winds up in Miami. That's my prediction.
And just giving you guys a heads up, look, only 36 people have done this so far, so that's not bad odds to get yourself a jersey from the draft. Second question, who will be the third overall pick? Brian alluded to that a little bit, but we'll go to Greg for this one. Which guy? Brandon, Scoot, Amen.
It's Scoot.
All right. A couple people going Amen Thompson. That's interesting. It's obvious about who gets the most questions right out of the group. So next one, we'll go to Brady. Will there be a trade on draft night that involves a top 3 pick in the 2023 draft? Both, either, or neither?
I do not think so. Neither.
Wow.
And that's the majority right now. Pretty heavy there.
I went with option 2.
Number 4, we'll go back to Brian. Which of the guards below will be selected first? Jordan Hawkins or Keontae George?
Ooh. And Van is right. I did say Jovic. I was very high on Jovic going into the draft. I think he's going to be great in summer league. I'm still going to go Jordan Hawkins. I think someone's just going to buy into the shooting. I do.
I agree.
62%. All right.
Hawkins is going to be
next question. We'll go to Greg on this one. Will Derek Lively be drafted in the top 10? Yes or no?
Yes. Ooh, look at
minority there. I think that he gets in also. I will say myself.
I don't think
Number 6. It's going to be interesting because there's not many big guys, so maybe somebody trades up to get him. But I guess you could also think about waiting if you have like a early teens. But
I just feel like Dallas is going to trade the 10th pick to someone who wants Lively, and that's how he'll get there, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, number 6, Brady. This is a tough. We'll actually go around. This is a tougher one. Which conference will have the most first-round picks? Big East, Big Ten, SEC, tie or other is the last one.
I'd have to go with a guess, but I'd say Big East. To be honest, feels like a lot of the guys we're talking about have been from there, right?
Yeah,
Isn't I don't even know conference. Isn't that like Michigan, UConn, like that grouping?
It's UConn for sure, but the Big Ten is. I'm going Big Ten.
Okay.
But I totally am guessing. It could be SEC, but I'm going Big Ten. But I'm literally guessing.
Brian, what do you think?
Big East has Hawkins, Prosper, Whitmore.
Yeah, see?
They maybe get Jackson. SEC has a bunch. I might go SEC from this group. Or other. Can I go other?
So,
yeah, fine. Yeah.
As
they have Arkansas and shit. Like, yeah, it might. It's SEC. Nick Smith,
Kentucky, obviously. As the person who made these questions, all of these were right around somewhere between 4 and 6. So I don't think. And so the thing that could come into play is if someone finishes tied, now that's going to be the winner. So it's going to be one of these 3 that have the most, based on my calculations, looking at mocks and stuff. But if there's a tie, interesting. So strategy there. 7, which of the following players will be drafted first? Kobe Buffkin, Grady Dick, Cason Wallace, or JHAS? I don't know if I went to Brady last. Brady, go ahead.
Honestly, probably Kobe Buffkin, right? I feel like he might go highest.
Yep.
A lot of people. I don't even know how I
before. Now he's dropping all of a sudden, but that could be a smoke screen.
Yeah. Yep. What I was about to say would have got us in trouble on the stream.
Me too.
A lot of people. A lot of people love Grady. That's what I was gonna say.
I was
number 8. Number 8. Oh man. Number 8. Who will be the 5th overall pick? Brian.
So I bet Jarris Walker. It was plus
5th overall pick.
260 before. Now it's like plus 290, plus 190, plus 200. Osir Thompson's getting.
I'm taking
momentum.
a Thompson. You get 2 for 1 on that one. Come on.
Osir Thompson's getting momentum for this, and Amen is actually like he can fall from 4. A lot of people think he's going 4, but he can fall from there. But I'll go Jarris Walker because I've been sort of on that.
Okay, that's the Pistons pick, by the way. You get a little value here, but also, like Brian said, there's buzz on these other 2 guys.
There was smoke about Utah potentially moving up and taking Walker at 5 also. So I'll play. That was Jonathan Gavoni who said that's maybe a possibility.
All right, I think this is the last one. How many players from outside the NCAA, so coming from the G League, Ignite, those types of leagues, or from overseas, will be drafted in the lottery picks, the top 14? 3 or fewer, 4 or 5, or 6 or more? Greg.
3 or fewer.
That's the pick right now.
Take it.
Wembanyama, Coulibaly, Scoot Henderson.
Are the Thompson twins in there?
Oh shoot!
Thompson.
What a
that's what you got to think about.
That's 5 already.
Anyway, see, that's why you don't do a hour and a half long show. We appreciate everyone joining us. Shout out to Water Cleanup of Florida. Shout out to look, there's way more response options. Look at that.
One more. It was one last question here. The draft age of the oldest player in the first round, I think the majority is going to say 22, 23. I know we're
I
running
took 22.
late.
Yeah, 23 or above.
And that's all you got to do right there. Very easy.
That's all you have to do to get a free jersey. Right now at this moment, there's only been 38 people to sign up. Sign up at that link right there and you get a jersey. It's that easy. Like just answer the questions and you're in. I think you have to like put in a contact phone number or something like that. Thank you to Mortgage by Arash. Thank you to Water Cleanup of Florida. Thank you to Better Edge, Sean, Brian, Chris Kaufman, Brady Hawk, Alex Toledo, We appreciate everyone going along with us. This will probably be the longest stream we do all summer. We appreciate it. Good night.
And I'm going to jump in real quick, Greg. Don't forget, tomorrow night at the draft, we'll be doing playback. That'll actually be longer because we're going from 8 o'clock all the way to the end on playback. The link is at the bottom, playback.tv/5RSN. See you there tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Thanks for joining us.